as a singular planet. In fact, it is anything but. For this is a story not of a universe,
but a multiverse,
where universes and planets, such as Earth, were replicated and mirrored across a vibrating, infinite plane. Some barely different from the next.
Others drastically so.
This is DC On Screen. Every week, Dave and Jason talk about the multiverse of DC properties on film and television. But be warned, if it's been officially released, you can expect they'll spoil it.
Welcome into DC On Screen. I'm your host, David C. Robertson. This is my co-host, Jason Goss.
Hello.
And right away, I'm going to apologize. I am sick. I'm over here mainlining expectorants. And this is probably going to be a short episode where we review Freedom Fighters The Ray. And it's appropriately short because this is a very short season.
If you're willing to use the term season, sure.
Yeah, if you want to do that. I mean, these are like 5 to 6 minute episodes.
That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah. You want to start off on any kind of, like, I don't know, hopeful or positive note? Or should I just get right into it?
Yeah, sure. I've got a couple things. So it's the same production as Vixen, which means that I don't want to hold its format against it. That's the format it was given, and that's what they're dealing with. And we've said before, we think this whole 5 minute, 6 episodes thing is absolute insanity.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, 'cause you get to what amounts to the end of, like, slightly less than one good Justice League episode.
Yeah.
And then it's over. You're out. You're done. Peace. We'll see you next year. Maybe. So it's a little frustrating to even watch this kind of thing. But I will say this. The animation looked a little better. Even the dialogue, better than before. Like, it's better than Vixen's been. Like, I think they trended in the right direction a lot of ways, but there's just it's just not going to work in so many ways. So his best friend, I forget his name, guy who's not quite Black Condor, but is. He was actually funny a couple times. I enjoyed his dialogue. What else? What else do I have that's really positive? I can't say it's short. That's a backhanded compliment. Man, that may be it. That may be all I've got to say positively.
All right.
Dialogue, a little better. Animation, a little better. Still love Russell Tovey. I don't know. I'll let you know if anything else comes up. But and it was nice to see some of the backstory of, well, like, hey, hold on a second now. How did that Ray end up over here? How did one go to X and all that? I mean, it's nice to get some of the backstory. But, and can I just lead in with a problem you may want to take up? You didn't just give me a backstory. You just gave me a whisper. This was the entirety of what you showed me was what would be the blurb if you were going to do the actual origin. If you gave me what happened in this episode entirely, and I'm just going to call it an episode because let's just do that. How about that? If you like. If you just called it one episode, all you gave me is like the teaser for that episode.
I am going to say, first of all, that the drawing looks nothing like Russell Tovey, and that bothered me a lot.
It is way off. They could have just thinned his cheekbone a little bit more, or not his cheek, his jawline a little bit more, and it would have been, acceptably like him.
Well, Russell doesn't even have an upper lip, and they gave this dude, like, the biggest upper lip ever. Like, very pronounced in animation.
I hadn't thought about it, but yes, he does have very full lips compared to the true Russell Tovey.
But, I mean, whatever. Let's. I don't even know what to say about that other than it's annoying to me that it doesn't look the same. Doesn't look like the same guy.
It irked you.
It did. It irked me. This feels like a polished version of, like, G.I. Joe or the Fox Kids X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons.
See, that's funny. And it may be true. It may be true that, given what you said, this may be a better series than the X-Men cartoons that we all know and love.
No. I'm not going to say it's a better version. I said it's polished.
It's more polished. Okay.
That. I mean,
better and polished are different. You're right.
It's still shit if it shines. I don't know what to tell you.
I understand, but
this is bad.
It's going to be the main point. Is like maybe this was maybe it was a great first step, but it's just we got to wait another year just to see what happens with anything. It's just a frustrating.
This makes me feel. I like Russell Tovey. I feel like who else I like? Matt Ryan. I'm really worried about the Constantine show now.
I know. that they're holding hostage.
Yeah.
It's a problem for a different episode.
I feel like this show has really bad, awkward animation.
I agree. I think it got slightly better than where Vixen was, but it is still very awkward.
Maybe. I'm not certain on the Vixen thing.
Not sold on my proposal there.
No, I'm really not. I think it's probably about the same to me. But it's bad when Stephen Amell doesn't come back.
You caught that too.
Yeah, that was Matthew Mercer, not Stephen Amell.
Yeah.
And
if
Stephen Amell's like, I'm gonna pass, guys.
Yeah. The first thing he did, like the first voiceover from him, which I think is him kind of telling the whole city, get out, this is your last chance kind of thing. Sounded very Stephen Amell-ish. And then like the second he came back on, I was like, I don't know about that.
Right.
But then you start wondering like, well, how did they end up with Melissa Benoist, Daniel Panabaker, Valdez? Like, how did they end up with everybody and then just Amell couldn't make it? I don't want to say won't come back. That would be overstepping, but
yeah, it's probably a scheduling issue, really. Amell's proven that he's willing to do any number of crappy things.
This is true. Yeah, it is probably a cheap shot to say Amell didn't want to do it. He has stated publicly and proven his point several times that he will do absolutely anything. Like he wants to corner the market on Green Arrow.
Yeah. The Red Tornado voice was patently awful. I don't know, like even the people that came back and like play these characters in live action. In the animated version, they play it like they've never acted before. I don't understand.
It is strange. It's hard to describe. It's like they play it as though someone was describing the scene for them. Like traditionally with animation, you at least get to look at the animatic. You at least get to look at. I mean, if you don't know what it is, that's basically an animated storyboard. So. Mm-hmm. You at least get that, which gives you the timing of the scene, tells you when your lips should be moving.
Yeah.
You don't... It does. It feels like there's a disconnect that I can't explain.
Now, normally I would say that, like...
And these are good actors.
In animation... in voice acting, you have to over-project because the audience can't see the nuances in your face. Mm-hmm. But I would expect for their voices to sound a little dead because they're underdoing it. But they're not. They're overdoing it by a lot.
Oh, so that's your disconnect. Is it sounds animated and it doesn't look animated.
It sounds way more animated, like 1980s G.I. Joe animated. Like,
and see, I'm wondering now, like if I just gave you the vocal track for this, I'm going to stick with episode. If I just gave you the soundtrack for this episode, I'm kind of wondering like if you would perceive it the same, because it might be as simple as like. There is the disconnect where you're seeing, like, this person isn't making exaggerated movements at all, but this person sounds very excitable right now. I'm confused.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It seems like maybe if I just gave you the audio and let you imagine it as you might see it. Like, give you the storyboard even, so you know where everyone's supposed to be per frame.
Yeah.
Or per scene or whatever, or per shot. And anyway, so if I gave you those two and let you just watch it in your head, just imagine. And then showed you the final product, I think your comment might be like, okay, who stole like half the frames?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just that the animation is so very limited.
It is. They did it for money. I mean, that's the assumption I'm making, is that it is limited because it costs less, period.
Right.
And, I mean, they're producing it for relatively cheap. I don't know what the contracts are with all the actors that do or don't come on board with these things, but I imagine it's not the most costly. That's the word I want. Thing they do.
Yeah, that one of the things that I hated it, but it was also kind of interesting is, we get to see what one of those G.I. Joe knowing is half the battle. Mm-hmm. Segments. That's what this was. It was that, but for the LGBTQ community. It was just so heavy-handed, and the guy's like, equal rights. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously, but oh my gosh, this is bad. It's like, we're going to go walking, and there's just happens to be a skinhead in the woods preying on lesbians. What are you doing?
I'm not saying it's probably never happened. Because we live in a funny world.
Just as a gay superhero happens to be.
But yeah, that felt a little forced. That felt a bit forced.
And I'm like, women, gay or not, have to be a little bit, unnerved by the fact that the guy was like, this wouldn't have happened if you had a man take you home, and then a man saves them.
You're saying that's the kind of thing that you would be annoyed by later if it were you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I was me, and I was annoyed at the moment.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Because, all right, whatever.
Yeah, that one didn't bother me nearly as much. It was just like, I agree. It was that scene was just kind of a, come on, man, don't make a cartoon. Literally make a cartoon out of what is a very good point. You could have. This could have been a good or a bad PSA, and this feels like a bad one.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but like that politician or whatever at the beginning that was like, let's be honest, the people you're talking about don't support me. I'm like,
oh, they didn't.
Wow,
they didn't vote for me. Yeah.
Any good politician is just not going to say that.
Not actually say it. That's the problem, is because you can become a soundbite too quickly. Now, do I think that a lot of people feel that? Yeah, probably.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But do you say it out loud? Not a lot of people that dumb.
Yeah. Anyway.
There are ways to throw shade in that way that where you don't have to say it.
Yeah. So, they didn't really, I feel like I should have felt something when all of those different freedom fighters got the kibosh. I felt nothing.
Which kibosh here? When they were all dying? Over
yeah,
the course
when they were
of
all dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to agree.
They didn't give me a whole lot of reason to care about any of these people. Like,
you weren't particularly
including
invested.
the Ray.
It was hard to really, like, I felt way more excited about the Ray in the small moments I had with him in the crossover.
Yeah. And they didn't even make me feel sympathy for the Ray. Like, they even, like, went out of their way to, I don't know, like, they cracked on him for living with his parents.
Now, Earth 1's Ray?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earth 1's Ray. Mm. They cracked on him for living with his parents, and then the dude he's dating is like, I was done with this sneaking around shit after high school.
Right. That actually did make me feel some sympathy for him, because he's still, like, it's hard to still be in the closet, especially when you're trying to do that. Like, I get where he's coming from. So, that actually did, if all the sentences you could have picked on, that one actually humanized me a little bit.
See, it didn't for me, because, like, the only thing they gave me to care about in reference to him was that he was gay and in the closet. So even when other gay people were being like, you're pathetic, dude, I kind of just like, oh man, just let's end this character or something, or figure out some way to make him likable. Like, he just seems like.
Oh, so that was your take. All right, like for me, I saw that as like, I don't know. I see that in like a societal kind of way where that makes sense to me is, even within that framework, you've still got, you're kind of getting judged from both angles. So like I see it in that framework where, yeah, the people that want you out of the closet are kind of giving you a little shit for not getting out, and then there's all the stuff you have for getting out, and you got to like sit there between the two worlds. I get that. So, but your version though was, you just made this character even less relatable to everyone, even in his life. Like you're just like, yeah, this is you're pathetic from basically every angle I can think of.
Yeah. I felt like that's sort of what and I don't know. Maybe it was just they were making too much of a joke of it.
You're like maybe your most defining moment is like when he walks away from the guy the first time and his bestie, whose name I cannot remember right now for my life, says something along the lines of like, "Dude, help yourself."
Yeah.
And so for you, that was like the whole series summed up. Is like, yeah. If this character could just help himself a little bit and then get back to me in a year, that'd be great.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's what you're gonna get is we'll see him in a year, I guess. Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. I don't know. That was a weird cliffhanger to leave it on.
Left on a cliffhanger. And I sat there watching the last portion of this episode.
Sure.
Thinking, man, they've got a lot to wrap up here.
Uh-huh.
And then I got to the end and thought, oh, come the hell on. This is you barely showed me the first act. You're not getting 3 in all likelihood. Just tell your story.
Uh-huh.
And even if you defeated the regime like in this 30 minutes, it's still the Ray. You've got plenty of stuff to play with.
Yeah.
There could be all kinds of, pockets and little wannabe Führers you got to deal with later. Anything. You got plenty of time, plenty of rope, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like they should have, maybe not had, 3 episodes of fighting with Melissa Benoist and Blitzkrieg,
Right, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of a waste. It really was. I don't know what to say.
Made me care about the character.
And they tried, though. They tried to make you care about the character, but your version of caring about the character was like, oh, this is a character I don't care about at all. Great. Oh, and you tried to round him out, and what instead you told me is that there are many facets of this character, and I care about none of them.
I would if he was written well. I have cared about that character before.
I cared about him in the crossover. He was great. And I don't think that was just Snart. I don't think we just cared because Snart was involved. I think he was genuinely just an interesting character with a lot of...
Despite Tovy's voice, that character resembled nothing of what I saw in the crossover.
I know. It was so sad. I mean, hell, do you have anything else? Good Lord. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I think I'm done. It was bad. I
talked about all the hope I found before, and as we were talking about it right now, I don't think I found any more hope.
Oh, I'll tell you something. The sound effects for Vibe's powers are terrible.
Stupid. That was the worst. I think you did it better doing it with your mouth. I kept thinking during that scene, which a little bit of props for the goggles. A little bit of props for the goggles being, thrown down. It was a good shot. But I kept thinking during that scene when you heard did they actually steal this from an old Doctor Who episode? Or am I just thinking that they could have?
I don't know, man. It was just, I feel like what I imagined was they were like, oh man, we need the Vibe sound effects. I don't know why we're not going to go use the ones that we use on the Flash.
That you've got on deck. They're just sitting there.
Why don't we just go over to one of those free Soundwave sites and look up Sci-Fi Laser?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to guess what I would put in one of those sites, it would be Sonic Weapon. I would just put in Sonic Weapon and see what someone came up with, and something very similar would probably be there.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great note to leave on.
Yeah, sure. Well, guys.
As he described, this was just kind of, yeah. Can that be my official review? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to talk about the fact that 25 people wrote this thing?
Oh, no, it was hilarious. I have not seen, I haven't actually seen what I swear to you was I think it was 6 different writers on the written by credits. That's new. Normally there are a lot of restrictions about how you can't do that. But I guess not in new media, so whatever. But I'm 70% sure there's a Writers Guild restriction on doing that kind of stuff.
I'm just sad that this many people wrote it and it was still crap.
It's possible that's the reason. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Just keep taking your passes, baby. Just keep taking your passes.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you on that one, man. It was weird. This was just a weird thing.
Alright, guys. Well, this was the first episode of 2018. Hope you enjoyed it. And,
God. Oh.
What a way to start,
I would love to be more optimistic. But they did not give us a lot to work with here.
No. We are DC On Screen. You can find every episode at dconscreen.com. You can also find merch and whatnot over there. We're going to be coming back with a Lucifer review tomorrow. And until then, guys, keep some DC on your screen. Was from Dan Jurgens' The History of the DC Universe, Part 3 of 10, as featured in DC 52, Week 4. It was performed by me, David C. Robertson. Intro music by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band, Future Elevators, could be found on Spotify or future-elevators.com. Our introduction was performed by Effie Oppelders of the fantastic podcast Stealing the Remote, which lives on SoundCloud. It can also be found on iTunes and Stitcher. We are proudly in partnership with TV Time, TV show calendar and social media site that lets you keep track of what you're watching, what your friends are watching, and where you all left off. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. Visit maladjusted.tv for more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy, an improvised web series, vlogs, parodies, and more.
Are you